that the NBA found no evidence that Steve Ballmer and the Clippers circumvented the cap in order to go and help Kawhi Leonard. Hey.
The NBA's official declaration that no evidence of wrongdoing was found was certainly a monumental moment, especially for a Clippers franchise eager to legitimize their seismic acquisition of Kawhi Leonard. It provided a clear pathway for the league to formally move on, closing the book on an investigation that had cast a long shadow over one of the most significant free agency decisions in recent memory. Yet, in the fiercely competitive landscape of Los Angeles, particularly among the Lakers fan base that felt uniquely wronged, this verdict did little to truly quash the persistent whispers. The narrative of an unfair advantage, of a star player swayed by more than just on-court opportunity, had already taken deep root.
Look, I've talked about it. I think the NBA just kind of wanted this to be over, wanted this to be done. There was a stretch there where it looked like they might just kind of try to sweep this under the rug, but it kept getting dug up.
The persistent scrutiny wasn't simply about a disgruntled fan base. Reports had surfaced alleging that Kawhi Leonard's uncle, Dennis Robertson, had made demands for benefits far outside the scope of permissible team negotiations, including part ownership of the Clippers, a private jet, and a house in Southern California. These specific, highly public claims transformed what might have been a routine inquiry into a deeply sensitive issue for the league. Such allegations, if proven true, would not only violate fundamental NBA rules governing player acquisition, but also undermine the very integrity of the free agency process. The very public nature of these demands, widely reported by major outlets, ensured that the story had a life of its own, fueling an insatiable public curiosity and forcing the league to conduct a thorough investigation, even as it clearly wished to put the entire saga behind it.
There were reports that, hey, the reason that Kawhi Leonard wanted to be traded to Toronto was kind of that idea of like Toronto was one of the big like whistleblowers, one of the first people that were like kind of the driving force of like, hey, we should have been able to re-sign Kawhi.
The suggestion that Kawhi Leonard considered returning to Toronto, not for basketball reasons, but to align with a perceived whistleblower, injected a deeply personal and unsettling element into the ongoing saga. It effectively unraveled the neat conclusion of the NBA's official ruling, suggesting the fallout from the free agency investigation extended far beyond a declaration of innocence. For Kawhi, it complicated his public image, implying his professional choices could be swayed by strategic maneuvers to distance himself from controversy. This revealed a potential rift, not just between competing franchises, but within the very fabric of professional relationships across the league. It highlighted how deeply entrenched the initial allegations had become, making it nearly impossible for the player, the teams, or the NBA to truly move on, leaving a persistent cloud of speculation despite any official judgment.
He goes to the Clippers and all that, and the Toronto Raptors thought there was something fishy, right? Something afoot. And, so the idea was that, hey, if he goes to Toronto, then Toronto's not going to help the investigation. Toronto's going to want to stay out of it. And, that kind of hopefully will die things down. And then, if Kawhi...
This suggestion that Kawhi Leonard's ultimate destination could be influenced by a desire to strategically sidestep an ongoing NBA investigation presents a profound tension against the initial allegations. The original inquiry was born from specific, widely reported claims of improper demands made to the Clippers' direct rule violations if proven. Yet here, the narrative pivots. It implies that a superstar's free agency choice might not solely hinge on basketball fit or financial incentives, but also on a calculated move to align with a team perceived as unwilling to aid the league's official probe. This adds a deeply unsettling layer to the saga. It casts doubt not just on the initial conduct, but on the very integrity of the investigative process.
What the conversation was after he ended up getting traded to Toronto, right? Pablo was like, hey, this isn't like by accident that he just got traded to Toronto out of all teams. But
this revelation that Kawhi Leonard's very first move from the Spurs to Toronto might have been a calculated maneuver fundamentally shifts the entire understanding of his career. It suggests a strategic undercurrent, influencing not just one free agency decision, but a much broader pattern of moves designed to insulate him from scrutiny or perceived threats. Suddenly, the NBA's initial investigation into the Clippers' free agency demand seems woefully incomplete. If even a trade was part of a larger strategy to align with a specific kind of organizational culture, it places immense pressure on the league to reevaluate how it understands and polices player movement. Kawhi Leonard, too, faces renewed questions. His entire public persona, built on quiet professionalism, is now challenged by a narrative of elaborate, behind-the-scenes machinations that could cast a shadow over every major choice he has made.
The dream of of Kawhi Leonard being a Laker for a vet minimum is gone. Which, look, even in the videos that I did talk about the potential and possibility, I even said, like, I think it's unlikely.
The definitive dismissal of the Kawhi Leonard to Lakers scenario on a veteran minimum contract, while perhaps predictable to many, marked a pivotal moment in the free agency narrative. For months, this particular what-if fueled endless debate, not merely about basketball strategy, but about the lengths to which players, agents, and teams might go to engineer specific outcomes. The very notion of a superstar taking such a drastic pay cut implied a motive far beyond standard financial considerations, perhaps a strategic play to align with specific organizational interests, or to avoid scrutiny. Its unlikelihood was often stated, yet the conversation persisted, highlighting the pervasive nature of speculation that enveloped Kawhi's free agency.
I'm hoping beyond this, whether he goes to Toronto or Kawhi goes elsewhere, I do think he does go to Toronto. If I had to guess, like, what happens, I think it's business as usual.
In a climate of intense speculation and looming investigations, labeling a superstar's destination as business as usual serves a particular purpose. It seeks to impose normalcy, to smooth over the turbulence, and to perhaps consciously or unconsciously guide public perception away from deeper, more uncomfortable questions about impropriety or strategic manipulation. It's an attempt to frame a potentially controversial decision as routine, as if the extraordinary machinations detailed later were simply standard operating procedure. This simplification, however, belies the intricate web of alleged demands and strategic maneuvering that would soon come to light, making such a casual prediction seem almost naive in retrospect. The speaker's desire for predictability here speaks volumes about the collective yearning to understand a situation that was anything but straightforward.
That could have caused a snowball effect, but now that Kawhi ends up, what it looks like, there's not going to be any punishments or anything like that, which, if that's true...
The suggestion that no punitive measures will be taken, despite the intricate web of alleged demands surrounding Kawhi Leonard's career moves, adds another layer to a familiar narrative. This isn't the first time the league has found itself wrestling with the complexities of player agency and the often murky lines of permissible conduct. It echoes the earlier, widely scrutinized investigation into the Clippers' acquisition of Leonard, which, despite numerous allegations, ultimately concluded without major sanctions against the team or player. This consistent outcome, or lack thereof, establishes a concerning pattern. It forces a crucial question upon the NBA: how thoroughly can or will they police the increasingly sophisticated strategies employed by superstar players and their representatives in an era of unprecedented player power?
Maybe even good enough to win a championship, right? Obviously all the components and pieces and stuff like that, but like Scotty Barnes with Kawhi Leonard and, RJ Barrett and stuff like that, that could be a really good basketball team. They were just a tough out in the playoffs last year. So Kawhi...
The persistent fantasy of Kawhi returning to Toronto, even years after delivering a championship and moving on, speaks volumes about his singular impact and the profound sense of what could have been. This wasn't just idle chatter, it reflected a deep yearning from a fan base that felt uniquely connected to a player who transcended the usual superstar transactional nature. The idea that he might once again lead them to contention, imagining a super team with Barnes and Barrett, underscores the mythic status he achieved in that one season. It highlights how certain player-team relationships, even brief ones, can become indelible, creating an almost gravitational pull of speculation long after the fact.
If the Clippers end up landing Brandon Ingram and Grady Dick, do they look at it as like, okay, we got more than enough wings. Do we really want to bring in a Peyton Watson? Do we really want to bring in a Jonathan Kuminga? We kind of got our players and pieces and stuff like that, right? Like Brandon Ingram's probably going to be, the small forward. You got Darius Garland. You got your draft picks this year. You got plenty of players and pieces that you're kind of trying to, go the new direction in.
The speculation about a Clippers roster looking toward a new direction wasn't simply about swapping out a few players. It reflected a profound organizational shift. This pivot was the direct consequence of the arduous Kawhi Leonard experiment finally reaching its end. After years defined by championship aspirations repeatedly derailed by injuries and an inability to consistently reach their potential in the playoffs, the franchise found itself at a critical juncture. The ambition of pairing two superstars had not yielded the desired results, forcing a comprehensive reevaluation. Discussing hypothetical trades for established young talent like Brandon Ingram, coupled with an emphasis on new draft capital, clearly signaled an acknowledgement that the team needed to fundamentally reset its approach to team building, moving decisively beyond the high-stakes gamble that had characterized their recent past. This was the Clippers, finally ready to move on.
That should put the Lakers in the driver's seat even more. I think they're still in the driver's seat, but it put them, it would not guarantee, but unless some team just comes out of like complete left field and is willing to sell the farm for him, I think at that point, it's very likely that the Lakers are going to end up landing Jonathan Kuminga at that. So this could be the first domino that falls for.
Drafting a player like Jonathan Kuminga is never a simple transaction. It's a strategic move with far-reaching consequences. For the Lakers, it immediately reshapes their future, providing a tangible piece in their post-LeBron blueprint, and alleviating some of the urgency to rely solely on aging star power. This isn't just about adding talent, it's about signaling a clear direction, a pivot towards sustainable youth development alongside veteran leadership. For other Western Conference contenders, it means one fewer elite young prospect available on the trade market, or at a future draft, forcing them to reevaluate their own paths to contention. The cost of missing out on such a talent can be immeasurable, shifting the balance of power for years. Kuminga himself faces the unique pressure of a major market, tasked with being a foundational piece of an organization accustomed to championship aspirations.
Is this kind of the first domino? I'm not saying Kawhi is going to get traded later today to Toronto and then boom, all of a sudden this happens and then that happens. But, within the next week, do we really start to see things start to ramp up for teams? Do we really start to see, like I said, the Cavs go and land Peyton Watson and then, Jonathan Kuminga ends up landing with the Lakers, and then you kind of have this snowball effect that starts to take place.
Despite the initial expectation of a cautious, measured offseason, where teams might gradually test the waters, the atmosphere rapidly changed. The resolution of Kawhi Leonard's situation, rather than being an isolated event, acted as a powerful catalyst, igniting a chain reaction across the league. This wasn't merely the first domino falling, it was an unspoken signal, unleashing a pent-up urgency from front offices across the NBA. Every franchise, from contenders to rebuilders, suddenly faced heightened pressure to execute long-planned strategies, or risk being left behind in a rapidly evolving landscape. The perceived opportunity cost of inaction, once buffered by widespread uncertainty, intensified exponentially, forcing general managers to make swift decisions. The question quickly became whether the sudden burst of activity truly heralded a more dynamic, balanced future, or merely a frantic scramble to re-establish pecking orders in a newly unfrozen market.
We don't know what the best version of him is. Pair him with Luka Doncic, I could see that kind of scale up. That's the idea. That's the goal. That's the hope, right? But
such ambitious hypotheticals are not just fodder for sports talk. They represent the immense, often crushing, pressure now firmly on the shoulders of the Dallas Mavericks front office. With a generational talent like Luka Doncic in his prime, the margin for error is razor-thin. The idea, the goal, the hope of scaling up an already promising player isn't a luxury, it's a strategic imperative. Their window for championship contention is wide open, but it won't stay open indefinitely without decisive action. Every move, every draft pick, every trade now carries the weight of maximizing Dogic's unparalleled abilities. Failure to surround him with the right talent, to truly unlock the next level of collective performance, could have dire consequences, from potential superstar dissatisfaction to years of competitive purgatory.
I wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't, if then he ends up going elsewhere. But, I think for the most part, I think we'll start to see Kawhi go to that destination, and then I think you'll start to hear Peyton Watson start to heat up a little bit, and more information on that. And then, of course, Jonathan Kuminga. Question is, will teams that miss out on Watson, will they pivot to Kuminga? Maybe, possibly, but I would imagine some of those teams would already be.
The ripple effects of a star's impending decision aren't confined to a single team's roster. They fundamentally recalibrate the entire market for talent. When a player like Kawhi Leonard commits, or even signals a strong preference, the pool of available high-value prospects and proven role players instantly becomes a high-stakes game of musical chairs. This isn't just about moving to a backup plan. It's a profound strategic recalibration, compelling front offices to swiftly reassess their entire board. The perceived value of a Peyton Watson or a Jonathan Kuminga can inflate dramatically, not due to an overnight increase in their inherent talent, but because the scarcity of elite options has intensified. This creates an urgent, high-pressure environment for general managers. How do they discern true long-term value from reactive panic buying, especially when the market's volatility threatens to derail their carefully constructed plans? That framing protects one side of the story and leaves the other exposed. The story stops being about opinion there and starts costing somebody something. The next answer is where that position gets tested. It leaves a gap between what is being claimed and what can be backed up. What is said after this reframes everything before it. The phrasing is doing a lot of quiet work in a very short space. That raises a question the room was clearly not prepared to handle. The reply to that is the part worth waiting for. The pause before that answer says as much as the answer does. It puts a decision back on the table that was supposed to be finished. That sets up the exchange this whole conversation was heading toward. It shifts the argument from what happened to who allowed it. The follow-up is where the careful wording starts to strain. That answer closes one door and quietly opens another. The pressure has moved and it has landed on people who were not expecting it. There is a version of this where that statement ages badly, and it is close.